I don't remember the exact moment I started to hate him. Maybe it was the third time she said his name over dinner like I wasn't sitting right across from her. Or maybe it was when she smiled a little too long after getting a message she swore was just from her sister. But truth is, it probably started long before that, maybe the first night we lay in bed together and she whispered his name in her sleep. His name was Troy. Even sounded smug, didn't it? Troy. Like a guy who wears cologne to mow his lawn. She'd bring him up like he was some lost war hero, someone we should all light a candle for. Troy always knew how to fix the garbage disposal, she'd say. Troy used to make breakfast every Sunday. He was so thoughtful. You'd think the guy cured cancer the way she went on about him. And every time she said his name, I felt a little bit smaller. Like I was just a placeholder. A substitute teacher standing in until the real man came back. But I loved her. God help me, I did. Her name was Claire, and when she wasn't comparing me to Troy, she was still the kind of woman who could take your breath away with a simple smile. I met her in line at the DMV, romantic, I know. She laughed at the grumpy guy behind the counter, and I asked her out before I lost my nerve. We were married 6 months later. It was good for a while. Simple. Real. But then the past started bleeding through the walls of our life. First little drops. Then full-on leaks. I remember the first time I asked her why they broke up. She just said, it wasn't the right time, and got real quiet, like I'd poked something tender. That should have been my clue. People don't stay quiet about someone they're over. One night, maybe 6 months into the marriage, I caught her looking at old pictures on her phone. I wasn't snooping, she left it on the couch while she was in the kitchen, and the screen lit up. There he was. Troy, smiling with his shirt off, his arm wrapped around her in some beachside selfie. She stared at that picture for way too long. Didn't even notice me standing in the doorway. You miss him? I asked, just like that. She jumped. Then gave me that practiced smile. Don't be silly. But I wasn't. And it wasn't silly. It was true. From then on, it felt like we were living with a ghost. He was always there, in the space between us. I'd bring her flowers, and she'd say, Troy used to do that too. I'd take her out to dinner and she'd compare the wine to the bottle they had in Napa. I never even knew they went to Napa. I started pulling away. Not on purpose, but in those quiet, invisible ways. I'd stay a little longer at work. Take the long way home. Skip dinner some nights just to avoid the conversations that always ended with her saying some version of, Troy would have done it better. And then one day, I found out why she kept bringing him up. She'd been seeing him. Behind my back. In motel rooms. In secret. She said it started, by accident, like that was even a real thing. Said they ran into each other, at a gas station. Sure. Like the universe just tossed them together by fate. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I just listened. She said she didn't mean to fall back into bed with him. That it just happened. I nodded. Said I needed to go for a drive. I told her I just needed air. And she believed me. Of course she did. Because she thought I was soft. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I didn't drive far. Just to the liquor store to pick up a bottle. Sat in the car with it for a while, cap off, just thinking. And when I went home, I didn't say a word. Just kissed her forehead and told her I loved her. She didn't know what I had planned. Not yet. But Troy was going to die. That much was certain. After I kissed her forehead that night, I went into the garage and sat in the dark. Just me, a bottle of whiskey, and the kind of quiet that hums in your ears like a warning. The smell of oil and wood and rusted nails wrapped around me like an old flannel. I remember gripping the edge of the workbench so hard my knuckles cracked. That was when the plan really started taking shape. I wasn't the kind of guy who got violent. Never even been in a real fight. I paid my taxes, cut my lawn on Sundays, waved at the neighbors like a good man's supposed to. But when someone steals the one thing you gave your whole damn heart to, it changes something in you. Breaks something. I started watching. Following. Didn't take long to figure out where they met. A cheap roadside motel off Highway 49, the kind with flickering signs and doors that opened straight into the parking lot. Real classy. Room 7, always. Like they were stuck in some high school fantasy where cheating felt thrilling instead of pathetic. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I watched from across the street in my pickup. Made notes. When he showed up. When he left. What car he drove, silver Dodge Charger with a dent in the back bumper. License plate said Troy for you. God, even his vanity plate made me want to puke. I studied him like I was prepping for a final exam. How he moved. Where he worked. His routine. Tuesday nights he went to a bar called Mac's off Old Pine Road. Always ordered the same drink, bourbon on the rocks. Always left alone. That's when I knew. That's where it would happen. The following Tuesday, I drove out to Mac's and parked 2 lots over. Didn't want to be seen. I waited until he stumbled out the side exit just after midnight, keys jingling in his hand, looking like the king of the world. He didn't see me. Of course he didn't. Guys like him don't look over their shoulders. They think the world belongs to them. I followed him. Real slow. Headlights off until we were deep into that wooded stretch between towns. He didn't notice a thing. When he finally pulled off onto the old fire road, I guess to take a leak or maybe just because he liked being alone, I pulled up behind him. I stepped out with the tire iron in my hand. No words. Just the cool weight of the metal, the way it felt like justice in my grip. He turned at the last second and his stupid grin dropped. Hey, what the hell? The first swing caught him in the knee. He went down screaming. I don't remember the next few minutes real clearly. Just sounds. Bones. Wet. Ragged breath. My own voice, low and steady, saying things I didn't even know I felt. When it was done, I stood there over him, chest heaving, blood on my hands. My shirt was soaked. My heart was still racing, but something in me, stilled. I didn't bury him. Didn't hide the body. I dragged him into his own trunk and left the car parked half off the fire road with the keys still in the ignition. I wanted them to find him. I wanted Claire to know he was dead. That he wasn't ever coming back. And she did. 2 days later, she got the call. I sat next to her on the couch when she answered the phone. I watched her mouth slowly open in shock. Her knees buckled and I caught her before she fell. I held her as she cried, and whispered that everything would be okay. She never suspected me. Not for a second. She thought it was random violence, some drunken bar argument gone sideways. But something changed in her after that. Something deep. For the first time in months, she stopped saying his name. For the first time in years, she looked at me like I mattered. But then the real twist came. 2 months later, a man from her yoga class, a married man, was found dead in his driveway. Blunt force trauma. No suspects. Then a guy she worked with, who everyone knew was sleeping around with a coworker's wife, vanished. Weeks later, his body turned up in a storage unit 2 towns over. I didn't think much of it until the 3rd one. Another married man. Same thing. Brutal, efficient, and familiar. That was when I started to see it. Claire wasn't just grieving. She was hunting. At first, I thought it was coincidence. I mean, how often do men like that get themselves into trouble? Guys who chase married women, cheat like it's a game, treat vows like napkin promises, they're always on the edge of something messy. Maybe I wanted to believe it was just karma. The universe finally handing out receipts. But deep down, I knew better. I could see it in Claire's eyes. The way she watched the news with this strange calm. The way she didn't flinch when another affair-driven death made the headlines. No fear. No pity. Just this quiet, settled satisfaction, like she'd found peace in the pain. It was around the fourth one when the pieces started falling into place. A man from her spin class, mid-40s, charming, a real, silver fox type, got caught sleeping with a friend's wife. A week later, he was dead. Found in his own garage, carbon monoxide poisoning, but the hose connecting his exhaust pipe looked too clean, too neatly placed. That night, Claire didn't say a word. Just curled into me like she used to before Troy ever came back into the picture. She buried her face in my chest, her breath warm and steady. But her heartbeat, it was slow. Measured. Not the kind you have when grief's heavy on your shoulders. No, this was something else. I should have been afraid. I should have gotten up and walked out the door, but I didn't. Because somewhere inside me, I understood it. That part of her, the dark part, it was born from something I gave her. When I killed Troy, I didn't just take out a threat, I gave her a taste of vengeance. I cracked something open in her. And now, she couldn't close it. The next death was less subtle. A guy from the next town over was bludgeoned to death behind a dive bar. Word around town was he'd been seeing 3 different women, all married. Claire didn't even blink when she heard about it. She just stirred her coffee and asked me if I wanted to go on a road trip. I looked up from the paper and studied her. Where to? She shrugged. Somewhere quiet. That night we drove out past the lake, far enough away that cell signals got spotty and the radio turned to static. She rolled the windows down and let the wind whip through her hair. She looked younger that way. Freer. Like killing had burned away her guilt and left something new in its place. We stopped at a cabin we used to rent before things got bad. It smelled like cedar and old whiskey, and I lit a fire just to make it feel less cold. Claire poured us 2 glasses of wine, but she didn't sit next to me. She stood by the window, staring out into the woods. He deserved it, she said finally. I didn't answer. I didn't ask who she meant. We both knew. I used to think I was weak, she went on. For staying with you. For loving someone who wasn't Troy. But then. I saw what it felt like to really take control. After he died, I felt stronger than I ever had. I didn't breathe. You think I'm a monster? She asked, turning to face me. I met her eyes. No. I think you're someone who finally snapped. She smiled at that. Not a full smile, just a soft curl at the corner of her lips. Maybe. But I'm not the only one, am I? And there it was. She knew. Maybe not all of it. Maybe not how I followed Troy or what I used or how many times I hit him before he stopped making sounds, but she knew enough. She knew I was capable of it. And somehow, that made her love me more. That night, we made love like we were the only 2 people left in the world. No past, no guilt, no Troy. Just us. Bound not by wedding vows or promises but by the blood we both spilled. But the peace didn't last. It never does. Because Claire wasn't done. She had a list. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was starting to feel like I might be on it. I started locking the bedroom door at night. Not because I was scared, exactly. It was more like precaution. The same way you check the stove twice before leaving the house. You tell yourself it's just a habit, but deep down, you're not so sure. Claire never asked about the lock. Maybe she noticed. Maybe she didn't. But either way, she kept sleeping beside me like nothing had changed. Like we were just another married couple trying to piece our lives back together after a rough patch. Only instead of therapy or counseling, we stitched our marriage together with secrets and blood. During the day, she was the picture of peace. Yoga in the morning. Smoothies with protein powder. She even started painting again, landscapes mostly, with strange, dark trees in the background and skies that bled orange. She'd sit out on the porch barefoot, brush in one hand, wine in the other, like she had all the time in the world. But at night, she moved differently. Restless. Twitchy. I'd wake up to find her standing by the window, just staring into the dark. No words. No reaction when I called her name. Just silence, as if she was waiting for something out there to speak first. I started reading old news reports. Looking for patterns. Cross-referencing the names of the dead with her phone history, her calendar, even her social media. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. That she was just grieving, still spiraling from what Troy did to us. From what I did to him. But then I found the notebook. It was tucked between the spare towels in the linen closet. A little black moleskine with a leather band and no name on the cover. Inside, it was full of lists. Names. Locations. Notes scribbled in neat handwriting with little stars next to certain entries. Married. History of infidelity. Confirmed. At the bottom of the first page. They never learn. So I will teach them. There were 7 names total. I recognized 3, men from town. 2 were already dead. The third was still breathing. I closed the notebook slowly, like it might explode. Then I sat on the edge of the tub and stared at the tile for a long time. My heart wasn't racing. It was worse than that. It was still heavy. I should have gone to the police. I should have done something. But I didn't. Because how could I? I'd be the first domino. The moment they looked at Claire, they'd look at me next. And I wasn't innocent. I was the start of all this. I was the man who cracked the foundation. So I tried to reason with her. Carefully. One night, I brought it up while we sat on the couch watching TV. Some crime documentary was playing. Funny, right? Like watching your own reflection on a stranger's face. Do you ever think about stopping? I asked. She turned to me, eyes soft, like I'd asked if she wanted more popcorn. Stopping what? This crusade. The men. The punishment. Haven't you had enough? Claire tilted her head. They didn't stop. That doesn't mean you have to turn into. She cut me off with a smile. Into what? You? The words landed like a slap. I looked away. I did what I did because of what he took from me. From us. And I'm doing what I'm doing, she said, because they take from everyone. Wives. Kids. Trust. They deserve what they get. I didn't say anything after that. We watched the rest of the show in silence, but I didn't hear a word of it. That night, I left the lock on the bedroom door unlatched. I needed to know. Around 3 a.m., I felt her shift. The bed creaked lightly, and I heard her bare feet touch the floor. I stayed still. Breathing shallow. She stood by the edge of the bed for a long time. Just watching me. Then, slowly, she leaned down and brushed her lips against my forehead. Sleep well, she whispered. And then she walked out of the room. When I heard the front door open and shut, I got up and checked the window. I watched her slip into her car and drive off into the dark. That was the moment I finally knew. Claire wasn't just killing men. She was testing me. To see how long I'd let her burn the world down before I tried to stop her. The next morning, Claire was back before sunrise. She made breakfast like she hadn't just gone out in the middle of the night with death in her eyes. Eggs. Toast. Black coffee. The kitchen smelled warm and familiar, like a normal life. Like we weren't both teetering on the edge of something irreversible. "You didn't sleep much," she said casually, sliding the plate toward me. "I wasn't tired," I replied, keeping my eyes on the food. She sat across from me, chin resting in one hand. Just watching. I could feel her gaze crawling across my face, studying every blink, every muscle twitch, trying to read my thoughts like a journal left open on the table. I picked at the eggs, but my stomach wasn't in it. I was thinking about the man with the star next to his name. His name was Paul. Paul Rayner. He ran a hardware store about 15 miles out. Big guy, always smiling. Wife and 3 kids. He also had a reputation, mostly whispered about, never confirmed. Still, the rumors were enough to land him on Claire's list. "You ever think people can change?" I asked, keeping my voice low, even. Claire tilted her head, curious. "You changed." "I had to," I said. "I became something I never thought I could be. For you." She smiled faintly. "That's not change. That's evolution." I didn't have a response for that. Because deep down, I wondered if she was right. That day, I drove out to Paul Rayner's hardware store. Told Claire I was running errands, needed a new garden hose. She barely looked up from her canvas. Paul was behind the counter, all charm and handshakes. His hair was grayer than I remembered, but he still had that same damn grin. I looked at his fingers, no ring. Maybe he took it off for work. Maybe he didn't wear it at all. I didn't ask. I spent 20 minutes pretending to shop, mostly just watching him. The way he chatted up a younger woman in yoga pants by the door. The way he looked at her when she walked out. Claire wasn't wrong about him. But that didn't mean he deserved to die. That night, I tried to bring it up again. This time, softer. Slower. "Claire," I said, "I need to understand what happens if someone makes a mistake and actually regrets it. If they want to fix it." She didn't answer at first. Just kept brushing paint onto her canvas. Another dark tree. Another bleeding sky. "Are you asking for yourself?" she finally asked. I looked at her. "No. I'm asking for someone who might be on your list." She set her brush down and turned to me. "So, you read the notebook?" I didn't deny it. There was no point. "Paul Rayner?" she asked. "That man's a predator. You know it, even if you won't say it out loud." "Maybe he is," I said. "But what makes you the judge? You think what you're doing makes you better than them?" "I think it makes me worse," she said, almost proudly. "But at least I'm not lying about it. At least I'm giving pain back to the people who handed it out so freely." Her voice cracked a little, and that was when I saw it. The flicker of pain behind the fire in her eyes. Troy had done something to her, not just the affair, not just the betrayal. He broke something in her that I couldn't fix, no matter how much I bled for her. I stood up. "You kill Paul, and it doesn't end there. It never will. Eventually someone's going to notice. Cops, family, someone. You think you're untouchable, but you're not." She stared at me for a long moment, then whispered, "Is that a warning or a threat?" I didn't answer. I just left the room. That night, I slept on the couch. I kept the living room lamp on and the front door unlocked. Not because I wanted her to leave, but because I needed to see what she'd do. Whether she'd walk out and finish what she started. She didn't. But she didn't come down, either. And in the silence between us, I realized something I hadn't dared admit before. I wasn't afraid of losing Claire. I was afraid of the version of me that wanted to protect her anyway. I didn't hear from Claire for 2 days. She stayed upstairs mostly, painting or pretending to. No more smiles, no more eggs in the morning. We passed each other like ghosts in the same house, quiet and cold. But silence is a kind of answer, isn't it? And in that quiet, I started planning. I drove back out to Paul Rayner's store. Not to spy this time, but to warn him. It felt strange walking in, knowing what I knew. Like standing on a train track and hearing the whistle in the distance. Like I was watching a performance that only I knew was fake. "Hey there," he said. "Back for that garden hose?" Actually, I paused. "I want to talk to you about something. Something important." His smile thinned. "All right. Let's hear it." I lowered my voice. "You ever been with a married woman?" He blinked, caught off guard. "That's a hell of a question. It's also a dangerous one." He squinted at me. "You threatening me?" "No," I said. "I'm warning you." I saw it then, the flicker of guilt in his eyes. Not fear. Guilt. Like he already knew what this was about and didn't need details. "She's coming for you," I added. "You've got time. Leave town. Change your routine. Just, don't be stupid." Paul leaned back against the counter, his mouth a hard line. "Who is she?" "You don't want to know," I said. He didn't press. Maybe part of him already guessed. Maybe he'd seen her once, maybe they'd even talked, somewhere in the static between mistake and consequence. But he didn't ask again. He just nodded, slowly, like a man who's been told the tornado is coming but still doesn't believe it'll hit his house. I left the store without looking back. That night, Claire came down during dinner. No warning, no fanfare. Just stepped into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Her hair was damp, her eyes red. "I'm sorry," she said, almost a whisper. I looked up from my plate. "For what?" "For making you choose." I wanted to say I hadn't chosen anything. That I was still stuck somewhere in the middle, trying to hold together two halves of a broken world. But that wasn't the truth anymore. Not really. "What did you do last night?" I asked. She tilted her head. "Why?" "Because if you killed Paul, I want to know." She smiled faintly. "Would you be angry?" "I'd be disappointed." "Liar," she said gently. "You'd feel relieved. Because you didn't have to be the one to do it this time." I stood up. I warned him. Her face didn't change, but her shoulders did, tense, sharp, like a blade being drawn. "You warned him," she repeated. I had to. "Why?" "Because we're not God, Claire." Her lip twitched. "No, we're not. God watches. I act. There's a difference." I stepped closer to her. "You're not avenging anything anymore. You're just feeding something inside you. And I can't be part of that." Her eyes darkened. "So what now?" I hesitated. This was the line. Right here. Drawn in the dirt between two lives, one where I followed her, and one where I finally walked away. "You want to know what now?" I said, barely above a whisper. "Now. I make my own list." Claire blinked, surprised for the first time in a long while. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not cleaning up after you anymore," I said. "And I'm not looking the other way. If someone's going to die, it won't be because you decided they were unworthy. It'll be because they earned it. On my terms." She stared at me. Then, she smiled. But it wasn't warm. It was proud. "You're finally becoming the man I needed," she said. And I realized right then, I hadn't changed her. She'd been changing me all along. The notebook sat on the dining room table for 3 days before I picked it up again. Claire had left it there deliberately. Like bait. Or maybe a challenge. And every time I walked by it, I felt the weight of it pulling me sideways, like a dark star in the middle of our house. I tried ignoring it, tried focusing on yard work, fixing a leaky faucet, even watching baseball like I used to. But eventually, I sat down and opened it. Names. Details. Little notes scrawled in the margins. Claire's handwriting was neat, steady, but angry, like she was carving each letter into the paper. Some names had red XS over them now. I didn't have to guess what that meant. Near the bottom of a page, I saw one that stopped me cold. Nick Weathers. I hadn't heard that name in years. We used to work together in construction, back before I met Claire. Tall, lanky, always had a dirty joke locked and loaded. He wasn't a great guy, and yeah, I remembered him bragging once at a dive bar about banging some dude's wife while the poor sap was out fixing her porch. I thought he was lying, puffing his chest. But now, maybe he wasn't. And now he was on Claire's radar. I grabbed my keys and left. His trailer sat just past the county line, same rusted tin roof and beat-up red truck out front. The kind of place where the TV is always on, and nobody asks questions about gunshots. He was sitting on the porch with a beer and a belly like a watermelon when I pulled up. "Well, I'll be damned," he said, squinting at me. "If it ain't good OL." "Shut up, Nick," I said. "We need to talk." His grin sagged. "This about that thing with Rachel? That was 10 years ago, man." I didn't sit down. Just stood over him. "You're on a list." He laughed. "A what?" "A list of men who sleep with married women." Nick sat up straighter, like he was finally catching the scent of something serious. "What are you talking about?" "I'm telling you that if you don't disappear, you're going to end up like Troy." That shut him up. I leaned closer. "You remember Troy Bell, right? My wife's ex. You remember what happened to him?" Nick stared at me. "That was an accident, right? A robbery?" "No," I said. "It was me." I let that sink in. "You killed him?" he asked, low. I didn't blink. "And she's worse than I am. She's faster. Smarter. Meaner." Nick's face went pale. "You serious?" "You got 3 options," I said. "Run. Confess. Or wait for her." I left before he could respond. By the time I got home, Claire was in the garage, cleaning the inside of her car. She looked up when I walked in, sweat glistening on her brow. "You went to see Nick," she said. Of course she knew. Maybe she followed me. Maybe she just guessed. Either way, I wasn't surprised. "I gave him a chance," I said. "That's more than you would have done." "Why?" she asked, shutting the vacuum off. "He doesn't deserve it." "Maybe not. But I do." She stared at me for a moment, searching my face. "Are you trying to be a hero?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm trying to keep my soul." She walked toward me, slow and deliberate. Then she did something she hadn't done in weeks. She touched my face, gently, almost lovingly. "You're playing a dangerous game," she whispered. "I know," I said. "Good," she replied. "Then maybe you finally understand what it's like to live in my head." And in that moment, I realized something I didn't want to admit. I didn't hate the notebook anymore. I needed it. Not to destroy Claire's mission, but to rewrite it. My way. I started making my own notes. Not in Claire's notebook, mine. A cheap spiral one I picked up from the gas station, with a red cover and a corner already bent from riding around in my truck glove box. I didn't tell her about it. Not yet. The first few pages were empty. I sat in the truck outside the lake some nights just staring at that blank paper, pen in hand, asking myself over and over what I was really doing. Was I trying to balance the scales? Or just make peace with the parts of me that didn't fit anymore? The names didn't come quickly. I wasn't like Claire. She hunted by instinct. Me, I needed evidence. I wanted to know. Not just what they did, but why. If they were repeat offenders. If they even cared about the husbands they were betraying. I wanted stories, not just blood. The first name I wrote down was Shane Driscoll. Shane worked at the local auto shop. I'd known him a little through mutual friends, loud, tattooed, a bit of a show-off. But what caught my attention wasn't anything he said. It was what his ex-wife posted on Facebook, of all places. One long, bitter rant about how he'd slept with at least 3 married women during their marriage, and laughed about it behind their husbands' backs. It stuck with me. I went down to the shop. Got my oil changed. Watched the way he looked at women who came in, the way he leaned just a little too close, the smiles that lasted a beat too long. And then I followed him. It was easier than I thought it'd be. People are creatures of habit. He went to the same bar every Thursday. Sat at the same stool. Bought drinks for the same flirty, tired-looking woman with a tan line where her ring used to be. Her name was Lisa. I found her social media in under 10 minutes. Married. 2 kids. Churchgoer. Her husband posted date night selfies like everything was normal. I didn't confront Shane that night. Instead, I followed him home and left a note under his windshield wiper. I know what you're doing. I know who she is. Stop, or I'll make sure her husband finds out. And then I'll come for you. He didn't show up to the bar the next week. Claire noticed something in me changing. You're quieter, she said over breakfast one morning. But it's not guilt. It's calculation. I didn't answer right away. I was halfway through a list of potential names scribbled on the inside of a grocery receipt. What's your criteria? She asked. I looked up. You're not killing them, she said. So what are you doing? I shrugged. Giving them a choice. She tilted her head. And you think that makes you better than me? No, I said honestly. But it makes me different. Claire leaned back in her chair. You're still punishing them. Only if they deserve it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Everyone thinks they're the good guy. Until the blood shows up on their shoes. That night, I lay awake in bed staring at the ceiling. Claire slept soundly beside me, her hand curled under her chin like she hadn't just murdered 2 men in the past month. And that's when it hit me, her silence was never guilt. It was peace. She believed in what she was doing. The question was, did I? I got up, went to the garage, and sat under the buzzing light with my notebook. I wrote one more name. Charlie Levins. Divorced. Multiple affairs during 3 marriages. Now dating a married woman. Knows she's married. Doesn't care. Laughs about it. Quote, if the husband doesn't know, it's not cheating. Next move, warning, or worse. And just below that, I wrote one more line. How far will I go before I become her? I should have known she'd find my notebook. She found everything, eventually. I came home one night, just before sunset, dust on my jeans and sweat still drying on the back of my neck, and she was sitting in the garage, my notebook open on her lap, flipping through it like it was some damn novel. She didn't look up right away, just kept reading. Calm. Dead quiet. Your handwriting's gotten better, she said finally. I didn't speak. Just leaned against the doorframe and waited. You're not just collecting names, she went on, tracing a finger down the page. You're cataloging them. Documenting patterns. Giving them options. I'm not you, I said. She smiled, but it was a cold, tight-lipped thing. No, you're not. You're worse. That hit harder than I expected. How do you figure that? I asked. Because I don't pretend, she said, standing up and tossing the notebook onto the workbench. You act like you're some kind of surgeon, precise, clean, clinical. But you're still carving people open. Still deciding who deserves to suffer. You've got the same sickness, you just wear a nicer mask. I didn't respond. Not because she was wrong, but because she was close enough to the truth that it shook me. She stepped toward me, slow and deliberate. You went after Charlie Levins. I warned him, I said. Too late, she replied. His wife shot herself yesterday. Found out everything. Kids were home. I hadn't known. I thought she'd leave him, maybe get custody, start over. But people don't always react how you expect them to. I should have considered that. Claire could see it on my face. You thought you were better, she said. You thought your hands were clean. I turned away from her. You can't fix this by playing savior, she continued. Every name you write, every life you touch, it ripples. You're not stopping the pain, you're just moving it around. That night, we didn't speak. Not during dinner. Not in bed. The air between us felt like glass, clear but ready to shatter. And the thing that terrified me most wasn't the silence. It was how comfortable we were in it. Claire went out 2 days later. Didn't say where. Didn't have to. I checked the notebook when she left, 2 more names were crossed out. That was her message, she was still ahead. But I was done racing her. I grabbed my own notebook and went straight to the police station. Not to confess. Not yet. But to start something different. I filed a report on Charlie. Not about the affair, about the threats he made. I'd overheard him say once, half drunk at a bar, that he'd put a woman in the ground if she ever crossed him. I'd brushed it off then, but now it was evidence. And just like that, I realized I didn't need to punish these men with my hands. I could bury them in paper, in process. The system might be broken, but pressure from the right angle could still crack it. Claire wouldn't like it. She didn't trust law or order. But I didn't trust her anymore either. That night, I came home to find her sitting on the porch, legs crossed, cigarette in hand. A habit she picked up again lately. Probably for the stress. You talked to the cops, she said, before I could even sit down. Yeah. She blew out smoke slowly. You're trying to flip the game. I sat beside her. You said it yourself, we can't keep doing this. Someone else is gonna end up dead. Someone always ends up dead, she replied. I looked at her. Really looked. Her eyes weren't tired. They were empty. Not gone, just used up. You're not the woman I married, I said. She turned to me. Neither are you. For a moment, we just stared at each other. 2 strangers wearing the same wedding rings. And then she leaned closer, her voice low. Next one you interfere with, I'll know. I nodded. I expect you to. We sat there in silence again. But this time, it wasn't glass between us. It was fire. And we both knew, it wouldn't be long before one of us got burned. By the time I realized Claire had been tracking me, it was already too late to hide anything. She'd found the burner phone I kept in the truck, one I used to message anonymous tips to local police departments. She even found the locked drawer in my desk where I stored printouts of court documents, affair reports, social media screenshots. Every name I didn't want to kill but still wanted to stop. She never said a word. She just changed. It started with silence. Not cold or bitter, just purposeful. Like she was waiting. Watching. Calculating her move. I found a photo on my pillow one night. A man in his 40s. Married. 2 kids. Big smile on his face like he just won the lottery. On the back, in Claire's handwriting. He doesn't deserve your paperwork. I burned it in the kitchen sink. The next morning, the man's name was in the obituary column. He fell off a ladder, they said. Neck snapped instantly. No foul play suspected. I didn't even have to ask. I knew it was her. And I knew the message behind it. She was warning me. But what she didn't know, what she hadn't figured out yet, was that I had already made my final move. Weeks earlier, I started sending anonymous letters to a detective I trusted. Not the kind who makes headlines. Just a decent guy. Honest. Worked cold cases and domestic disturbances, mostly. I sent him timelines. Patterns. Tips. Even hinted at what happened with Claire's ex. I kept it vague, just enough to make him curious, enough to make him dig. And he did. Claire noticed him tailing her before I got confirmation. She confronted me that night. "You think the law's gonna fix this?" she asked, pacing the living room with a kind of rage that was quiet but lethal. "You think you can outmoral me?" "No," I said calmly. "But I can stop you." "You?" she laughed, bitter and broken. "You've got blood on your hands too, don't forget that." "I remember every drop," I said. "But I don't celebrate it." She stared at me for a long time, then walked over to the mantel and picked up a photo of us from years ago. Before everything. Before her ex came back. Before I buried him in the woods. Before she started cleansing the world one homewrecker at a time. "You know," she said, her voice quieter, "I thought we were something rare." "We were," I replied. "And then we became something dangerous." She set the photo down. "So what happens now?" I looked her in the eyes. "Now you run, or you get caught." She didn't flinch. "You'd really turn me in?" "I already did." A long silence fell over the room. Then, for the first time in months, she cried. No sobbing. No hysterics. Just tears. Quiet and human. She walked past me, headed for the door. I stood there, listening, until I heard the engine of her car start. She didn't say goodbye. Claire never came back. The detective called me 3 days later. They found the car abandoned near the state line. No signs of struggle. No body. No trail. Just her wedding ring left neatly on the driver's seat. That was 2 years ago. Since then, I've moved. Changed my name. Tried to start over. But the truth is, I still see her sometimes. Not in person, just in people. In women who glance too long at their phones. In men who lean too close at bars. In the ache of a husband who doesn't yet know he's being betrayed. I still write in a notebook. A new one. Blue cover this time. No revenge. No threats. Just names, dates, warnings I send out anonymously. And every time I finish a new page, I whisper the same thing. This isn't justice. It's just prevention. Maybe that makes me a coward. Or maybe I'm just the man Claire couldn't kill.